think will
You
quit?
the score.
Who think will quit? You're wrong. You're going to get the shock of your life.
No, it's better to burn out than fade away.
There we go.
He is not elite yet. Tell me one elite fighter he's beat.
You want to see what the Silk said?
Yes.
I don't know whether to float or gloat.
What size feet is he, Ben?
Good evening and welcome to Sugar, Silk and Stretch, arguably the best boxing podcast in the world. My name is Ben Doughty.
I'm Gary Stretch. The silk is missing, and I can't stop laughing, Ben, when I see your intro to the podcast.
I think I'm a bit underrepresented in it. It's just occurred to me that I don't say much. There's you being very trucky at being, he's not elite. Tell me one fighter he's beat that's elite. Silk's doing his bit, doing the Ali impression. I don't really get to do anything, do I? Gareth A. Davies gets a nice line, but I edited it, so what am I complaining about? We're going to do a quick one tonight, Gary, talking about the big kind of crossroads heavyweight clash at London's O2 Arena tomorrow night. Derek Chisora, Joe Joyce. You can get 10-1 on Chisora to win that via decision, and 5-1 by KO, 6-1 even, and you get 7-2 on him for the straight win. But I don't like you. I see it as a lot more of a closer affair than that in boxing terms.
I have a lot of issues with the fight tomorrow.
Go ahead.
Fundamental issues. And I think for our loyal supporters, I think it would be a massive learning lesson tonight, if I'm correct. If I'm not, forgive me. But I see a lot of danger in the fight tomorrow on two levels. I have a lot of fear for Chisora.
Yes.
For the fact that this looks like his last hurrah. He says he wants 2 more fights, but this is his defining fight. He said he won't fight at the O2 anymore.
That's what he said, yeah.
And so this is a fight where will teach us a lot. Meaning, when I saw Chisora fight Tyson Fury, I thought he's done. He looked like he had nothing left. You know, he was like a shadow of what he used to be. He was always a tough man, durable, dangerous. But when he fought Fury, he just looked like a shadow of himself. Now we get into this Joe Joyce fight. My fear is this: can the mind surpass the body? And that means, can he? It's like a father, a weak, let's say an average man, comes home and sees his daughter being attacked. He can go to a place of an extraordinary level based on his mind. It's like a mother whose daughter gets run over. She can pick up a car, then she collapses, her tendons are ripped. You know, people do extraordinary things. Can this man, based on his mindset, this is it, I'm going to give everything I've got. It's an amazing thing, and he could pull it off. It's also a dangerous thing that he could get really, really hurt. And so for me tomorrow, it's one of them fights that, as much as I'm excited to see, I'm afraid to see, because I could see a man that is going to pull deeper in his boots than is capable, and he could get hurt. He could also pull it off. And so it's one of them fights that I think will be a defining moment in sport that will teach us all about mental fortitude, meaning if your mind's so set on winning something, this is it. I'm going to put everything into this. Is that amazing, or is it very dangerous? And should the boxing board control allow it?
Well, that's another issue, of course. At the point when people say, you get a lot of fans, to be fair, Gary. So I know obviously you're not in that category, but you get a lot of fans and people who talk on the internet saying, "Oh, I just think they should be saved from himself." And sometimes you think, well, they don't really know, do they? They don't really know how much somebody's got in them. Sometimes they're virtue signaling a little bit, or they're repeating something they've heard. What I have heard, Gary, is concerns expressed for exactly how fresh Joe Joyce is. I mean, chronologically, he's less than 2 years younger. he didn't look great. He's obviously got the double KOs against Zhang to deal with, and I think you said to me off camera this week you think he's had a severe confidence knock because of that. He didn't look great against Cash Ali, which was his kind of chance to rebound and make a statement. So Chisora also didn't look great in his last time out against Gerald Washington. So sometimes the narrative appears to be that they're both washed up, both in the last chance saloon, Gary, and so you know what I mean. That might even it up to some degree, and then perhaps it comes down to the intangibles of who's a better fighter, who's got the style to beat the other guy. Do you know what I mean?
What was interesting was, they had a face-off, and Chisora.
I was there.
Yeah,
I got in trouble.
He destroyed him in the face-off. Joe Joyce was, falling back, not sure what to say, trying to be relevant, but wasn't relevant. The interesting thing today, though, which I saw for the first time, was at the weigh-in, Joe Joyce seemed to have, he kind of locked in. He even moved Chisora's hat to look at him, and he looked like for the first time he wanted to have a fight. But in the press conferences and the kind of sit down, completely lost. And so it's a matter of, are we watching a shadow of Joe Joyce against a Chisora that's going to go out on his shield, or do we have something left in Joe Joyce against a shadow of Chisora? So it's one of them, we call fights, weekly, UI and Silk. This is one of them fights which fundamentally depends on mindset, and my only concern is if mindset can get you really hurt.
Yeah, I hear that, and
because I believe Chisora is going to put everything on the line, and my only issue is, should we not protect a man from that?
Well, let's talk about that. The grounds for removing somebody's license, and in this country we deal with the British Boxing Board of Control, okay? They have removed licenses on occasion. They wouldn't let Ken Buchanan fight again in the early 80s. Do you remember that, Gary?
I do, but Ben, my issue is not letting you fight again. That's not the issue. It's not letting you fight against who.
So you think there should be a kind of stabilizers put on some of these older guys? You can still box, but be careful of your level.
I think if I want to fight again and I need to bring money and put it on the table at home, the board, if they think I'm worthy of that, they should allow me to fight and provide a living for my family. But should they allow me to go in with a certain level of opposition? So, it's a very fine line. Chisora. My only issue when he fought Fury, I felt he looked like he had nothing left. He survived. He was tough. He's just a man. Fury, I believe, gave him a payday as a friend. But it was, it was a foregone conclusion, and Derek was a hero in his own right to try, but it was like he was never going to beat Fury.
Sid Bogle has asked, does Gary think there's anything in Chisora's comments about post-traumatic stress disorder?
I think Chisora has had a lot of damage. I think he laughs it off, and he's a fundamental fighter. He loves to fight, but at what stage do we, or do the board, or do the the boxing people protect someone? We'll see.
When was the last time you remember someone getting their license pulled? When was the last time you remember it? Because the last time I remember someone getting their license pulled, it's a while ago, was Rockin' Robin Deakin. Have you heard of the journeyman fighter who branded himself as Britain's worst boxer? He got his license pulled after about 49 losses on the spin. I think it was 49. It was reverse Rocky Marciano kind of thing, yeah? And they pulled his license. And you know why I think they did it, Gary? Because they said journeymen who make a living from it for a long time, for years, even 10 years, they play the game and they know how to do it. You're trying too hard and you're too brave, son. And we're helping, protecting you for your own good, because you're trying to win these fights and you're getting beat up by some of these young prospects instead of slipping and sliding and ducking and diving, you know. But I'm trying to think. Well, when was the last time? I remember Ken Buchanan, like I say, back.
I don't think it's about. I don't think it's about being pulled, Ben, because no one can stop a man from earning a living.
Controlled.
But it should be controlled, because you can't put a man in with someone who can really hurt you. Just because he wants to earn a living. I think that's where the border control, and that's where, even people like me and you, to just expose it or to put it into the.
The only thing, Gary, you say that, but sometimes people get life-changing or suffer, life-changing injuries against somebody who was nobody special. Greg Page against a fella called, I think his name was Rocky Sikorsky or whatever.
That's accidents, Ben. I mean, but there is an element of protection. Anyone can have a freak injury. It happens. That's the game we're in. But if you foresee a man on a decline, as far as Joyce, the boogeyman was the Chinese guy. What's his name? So Zhang. But up until Zhang, Joyce was the juggernaut. He was this monster.
He did a number on Parker, didn't he, Gary? I think he was on top of the world. This nearly 2 years ago. It was August 2022. He dominated Joseph Parker and stopped him in 11 rounds. And at the time, Joe was on top of the world. And then everything changed on the spin of a coin with that rather ambitious fight against Zhang. I mean, when you think about matchmaking and manoeuvring your guy and protecting him up to a point, that was an interesting decision to put him in with Zhang, not once but twice, wasn't it?
Yeah, and now we're promoting Joyce like the next coming of Christ. That Fury even said he was the best heavyweight outside of him, and now we're putting him in with a guy who is one out of his last 10 fights, maybe. He's on the demise.
No, he's won more than that, Gary. Honestly, that's the perception, I know. But he's got like about a 4-5 record from his last 9 fights.
No, I don't believe
5.
I don't believe so. And if you look at him, I think when he had his last victory, I think he had 8 losses or 10 losses before.
No, honest to God, I've checked it, Gary. Do you want me to check it again?
I would like that, yeah.
Excuse me, somebody in the house. I've got some technical hands today. Can you Google Derek Chisora's record, box rec, and then bring it to me so I can do? I haven't got my laptop.
Sure, Ben, that he lost
Derek Chisora.
I believe like 6 or 7 years since he won a fight.
No, not at all. He beat Pulev back in 2021.
Okay.
And he won his last fight. He beat Gerald Washington in his last fight.
Right.
After the Fury fight.
I think that's 2 of 10.
He didn't. No, honest to God, Gary, it's not. I promise you. I remember looking at it and trying, because I was thinking about us doing this show, and it's about 4-5 or 5-4.
No way.
I'll prove it in a second. Everybody, let's keep talking. And when
what?
Can you bring? As long as you've got the internet up, I can do it.
Just give me the last 10 results.
Yeah, I usually have my Here we go, boxer. I usually have my. Okay, so he's got 13 losses in total in his whole career. Yeah. Right.
Give me the last 10 fights. How many wins?
Last 10 results. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so his last 10 results are ready.
Yeah.
Win versus Carlos Takam. Yeah. Lost to Dylan White. Win versus Senad Gashi. Win versus Arthur Spitka. Win versus David Price. Then he lost 3 on the spin to Alexander Usyk, Joseph Parker. Then he beat Kabrat Pulev. Then he lost to Tyson Fury. Then he beat Gerald Washington. So he's 6-4 from his last 10 fights.
Okay, so
I knew it.
Yeah, I'm wrong. Forgive me. But
I need to stop going up against you and Michael with predictions, because I'm getting my ass kicked all the time. But I always win when it's a matter of fact that's already happened.
I shouldn't go up against you with boxing history because you're smart.
Do you remember when Michael argued about Salvador Sanchez dying in a grey Mustang, and I said it was a white Porsche, and I was right? I lose to you two all the time.
Well, you're
predicting some of the head.
Ben.
But anything that's already happened, I always get it. But it's just you two are better at predicting the future than me, but telling the past, I'm better at.
No, you're a boxing historian. But anyway, my concern for this is a fundamental moment in sport for me, because if the men can pull something out of his spirit, because realistically, he should not beat Joe Joyce tomorrow. But if he can do it, that would suggest that mental side of boxing is so fundamental.
Yeah, well, see, here's my thing, Gary. I think they're not going to have to go looking for each other, are they? It's not going to blind each other with science. Joe's going to come forward, and Derek's going to rock and roll like he does that poor man's Joe Fraser thing, and he's going to throw looping shots, and he's going to get low, and he's going to
I think it's much more. I think it's a much different fight, Ben. I think first and foremost, does Joyce have the desire, and does Chisora have a will that is just beyond? So it's going to be a very, very interesting fight. Are you going to predict?
Yeah, you know, here's the thing. As I was saying, I think if it becomes a dogfight, I think Derek, with no pressure on him to win, but Joe is fighting for his legacy still. He still hopes he can become a world champion one day. So Joe is fighting to save his career. Derek isn't. Derek said it yesterday at the presser. He said, I like violence, man. I like violence. And he obviously likes money. He likes earning money and being relevant, you know, and getting out under the lights. So Joe is fighting for his life, essentially. Derek is just fighting for the sake of fighting. That may suit him with a lack of pressure on him, because as you say, 13 losses, another reversal is not going to destroy his psyche, is it? So, if it turns into a dogfight and Derek's the last man standing, which is not impossible, part of me is thinking, should I predict that? Should I have the courage of my convictions? My gut is telling me Chisora. My head is telling me Joyce, with a couple of, you know, with a few reservations, because Joyce has not looked great since he beat Joseph Parker. But I'm going to go with Joyce. I'm going to go with Joyce. I don't have to pick a stoppage. We keep talking about upping the stakes in this game, where we're actually going to commit to, or we have the option to commit to a points prediction or a KO prediction or vice versa. But since we haven't actually set that in stone, I'm going with Joyce.
What was your feeling in regard to the head-to-head?
What, when they went to? What, you mean the one pre-fight?
When they talk together. When you know, I never forget the most amazing head-to-head I've ever seen, which was Carl Froch versus Groves, and he had a head-to-head on the second fight, and you just knew there was no way, shape, or form that Groves could beat him. Froch was in a mental state that never going to beat him. After watching it, it was like, it was amazing. Froch was just amazing. He was just so fucking on top of it.
Yeah. See, I didn't watch it. I didn't watch the sit down. What I did see was the press conference yesterday with them interacting, and I saw them go nose to nose at the final face-off. So I saw that.
Joyce looked focused in that, but on the head-to-head, Chisora just destroyed him. He looked like a little boy as a man.
Joe is not his thing, is it? Joe is a nice, like Derek said again yesterday. He said, "You're not about this life, Joe. Your mum raised you nice." So he's not. He hasn't got the trash talk. He hasn't got the, you know, that kind of aspect to him. He's not a quick thinker. He's not quick-witted. So Joe, even when he's learning and he's getting better at it, because obviously you practice anything, you get better, hopefully. But he's not really comfortable with that. So Joe, it's not difficult to mug Joe Joyce off verbally. And he hasn't got that menacing Sonny Liston thing where his lack of verbiage worked for him. But does that mean does that stop him from winning the fight? I don't suppose it does.
No, I think he's. So you're with Joyce.
I'm with Joyce. I'm not obliged to pick either by stoppage or on points. I suspect it won't go the distance.
I think it's so. I don't think any of us could pick a inside outside. I'm going to go Chisora.
Yeah, see, that's what worried me, because I was nursing this idea. I'm going to stick with my guns. I was nursing this idea. I was nursing this idea, like I said to you, that I was thinking of picking Chisora because it kept nagging at me all week, and I haven't done.
My issue is, like you, Ben, my head would say Joyce all day long. My underwhelming thoughts are, how strong is the mind? Is the mind, when someone says, this is it, I'm going to give you everything I've got, I think, does Joyce have the answer to that? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. And you know, I don't have a lot of faith in Joyce. That's the problem.
I'll give you an example. If Chisora said, I'm going to give everything I've got and went up against a Tyson Fury, maybe even an AJ, I would say it's not enough. But with Joyce and his mental, where his mind is at, I think it could be enough. So I think Chisora is going to go out blazing, and that might just be too much for Joe Joyce. But my fear again is it's a dangerous thing, because if Joyce is dominant and Chisora doesn't quit, he could get very, very hurt.
And we've never seen Joyce hurt by anybody except for Zhang, have we? Never seen him blink except for that.
No, but I think he's took a lot of damage over the years.
And Zhang would have banged Chisora out too, wouldn't he?
I think Zhang bangs most of them out.
Yeah.
I think he's a very, very, very good fighter, very smart fighter, very durable. Yeah, I think he's a danger for all the heavyweights. You know, my favorite heavyweight in the world is right now.
Ruiz?
If he gets his shit together, is
Ruiz.
I think he's the best, most talented heavyweight.
The best technician, Gary. He has the most in common skill set wise and versatility with the 80s and 90s heavyweights we loved. Yeah,
beautiful fighter. I think
he knows how to let his hands go. He's got craft. He's got ring craft, and he's got good offense. And
I think if he had his shit together on any good night, he beats all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't fancy him to beat Alexander Usyk, to be honest with you. But you know,
I think he beats.
Can really fight.
I think he beats Usyk. I think he's too strong for Usyk.
Yeah, but be careful. Usyk's had you over before. Don't forget that, Gary. With both of us,
he's
had both of us over before. Did you see? Somebody spoke about it earlier. We might as well recap in the last 10 minutes that we have for this. Usyk named his, hardest opponent, easiest opponent, all the rest of it. He said his hardest opponent was Tyson Fury. He said, but the hardest puncher was Joyce-Chisora. He said his easiest fight was Joe Joyce in the amateurs. He said the quickest was Tony Bellew and the best footwork was Tony Bellew. He said best boxing IQ was Tyson Fury and best defense was Tyson Fury.
But I think Ruiz beats Usyk all day long, and I think Fury beats Usyk on the rematch. But we'll get into that later.
I hope so, because then the Cyclopean can take a loss. He can take an
L.
L.
I just think he's the better fighter. I think, and not a better fighter. I think he's too big. I think if he uses his advantages and he gets his head right, I think he has every opportunity to be.
I think it's a very intriguing rematch, isn't it? And there's no way you can predict it based on the last fight necessarily. If you're just going to say repeat, then you could be. I
think Usyk can win it or Fury can lose it. I think it's up to Fury. I think if Fury puts his headset 1,000,000% for 45 minutes of one night, I think he can beat him. If he doesn't get his head right, doesn't get his corner right, if he doesn't give Usyk the respect he deserves, he'll get beat. But if he comes back, trains with humble pie, and focuses like 1,000,000%, I think he has all the beatings.
I think he will as well. I think Tyson will take it very seriously.
I think his whole life's on the line of it.
And I think he is one of those extraordinary athletes that can process that kind of information and can respond accordingly. I think Fury does have that in him.
And I think it's so important to his legacy that he's going to give everything he's got. And if he does that, he beats Usyk. If he doesn't, he gets beat again.
Yeah. Just trying to think of any other stories that have been rumbling. You've got Canelo has announced that he is fighting Edgar Berlanga on September the 14th, basically Mexican Independence Weekend. Gary,
shocking that Eubanks turned down the deal.
Eubank didn't fancy it.
The deal. It must have been millions. So not a good sign for Eubanks.
No, because I suppose
he may have wanted $1 million or two more, but my gosh, Eubanks with no major titles, to get the opportunity, if he thinks he can beat him, where the money is massive after, to turn down a multi-million-dollar fight that's a shocking indication that he's not interested.
Yeah, and we don't know what he was offered, Gary, but like you say, there had to be an entry level of what it must have been at least. And where else is he going to get that kind of money fighting who?
10 plus, you know that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like to say, but it's going to be big, isn't it? It's going to be big. It's going to be the biggest payday he's ever been offered.
10+, Ben, without question. When we're talking Conor McGregor and Mayweather 200 million, and we're talking, you know, all these different fights, Joshua, Fury, 50 million, it's definitely 10+. For a man to deny or to turn down a 10+ fight on a fight that he thinks he wins, and that he knows if he beats him, he's the biggest name in boxing, is a complete indication that he's not interested.
Yeah, it's not good, is it? And then, you know, we've had other indications. We were talking about it. I mean, you were taking a fight in his corner, actually, but we were talking about Lomachenko and Tank Davis. I know it's a little bit different, but because of that, Tank is saying maybe he can get it on with Shakur Stevenson next. Maybe he will rise to the you know, step up to the particular plate, and we'll see how that goes. I mean,
I honestly believe with Lomo, you've got to just put your head in his head. Lomo's done everything, the best of, you know, incredible career. Tank's the new guy in the block. That's the public's point of view. For Lomo, he does it. There's always going to be another one. There's Tank. There's Ennis. There's Crawford. There's so many. Like, Tank's not focused on Gervonta Davis. He either wants. Lomo. He either wants to do it or he doesn't. If he can't find the desire to do it, he's not afraid of anyone. He's just, that's another name on the block. He just doesn't either want to or he doesn't want to do it. There's no fear of Tank Davis with Lomo.
It's probably the biggest fight out there for him at the minute. But in any case, in closing, because I say we're just so you guys know who've tuned in, and we appreciate you each and every episode that you tune in. We're only doing 30 minutes dead tonight. Well, when I say dead, I mean 30 minutes even, because that's what we're doing for various reasons. But Sid Bogle has asked, what are our thoughts on Moses Itama, his relative step up against Marius Vac?
I think Moses gets him out pretty quick.
I do. And I think he'll make that kind of statement that young fighters make when they've been knocking people out, and they step up the opposition to a guy who's boxed at world class, who's boxed at who of the division over the years, and he does a quick number on him, and people really sit up and take notice.
I think so. Based on a clash of styles. I think the big guy is amazing, durable. But I think Moses is so sharp, so dumb. You know, I think he'll catch him and make a statement. Yeah.
And we do have an interview with him on Sugar, Silk and Stretch. You know, I did get a hold of him several months ago before his no, maybe not even his last fight, but the last one before that. And he's not the most loquacious or talkative fella, or he wasn't on that occasion. But hopefully he'll kind of blossom into that role as he goes, and we watch his progress with excitement. Just before we sign off, Sid has also mentioned it's only 1 week until the big LA card on August the 3rd. You've got Crawford versus Madrimov. You've got Ruiz versus Jarrell Miller. You've got Bacoli versus Jared Anderson. You've got a whole bunch of exciting fights on the bill. The first Riyadh season card in America. Any chance you might get back to LA for that, Gary? I know you divide your time between Bulgaria and Los Angeles.
I have a commitment here until September 3rd.
Yeah.
After September 3rd, I'll be in LA.
Okay. So what about, look, I'm looking to be in New York and Atlantic City for the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame thing, the end of September. It'd be great. If Sugar, Silk and Stretch could all be there, it'd be brilliant.
Yeah, after the first week in September, I'll be back in the US. So
that would be really cool. If we can all do the AC Hall of Fame, can you imagine? Because we've never all hung out together, have we? I've hung out with Silk, I've hung out with you, but we've never all hung out, the three of us, which would be, you know, something we look forward to.
That's quite scary, but yes. I look forward.
Okay, listen. All right, Gary, so you've gone with Chisora, which I say doesn't hurt me, because I felt like having the courage of my kind of subliminal convictions.
Ben, you got one last chance.
No, don't.
You've got one last chance, Ben.
No, I'm going to stick on George. You go with Derek. I understand why you've done it, and I do. Yeah, I understand that. But you guys, we'll soon find out how it panned out. We'll be back here also with the Silken one, hopefully on Sunday nights. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for backing us up. Check out the interview. I only did one interview yesterday at the press conference with Russ Amber. Very interesting man, a real boxing guru. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. Give us a like. Give us a share. Tell your friends. We want to get our subscriber base up. We feel like we're the best kept secret in boxing right now. Obviously, we're not a secret to you, and we love you for it. Peace out.
Thanks, Ben.